Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome again to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri, and with me, as always, is the Rico to my dread, the Sylvester Stallone versus the Keith Urban. Hits Bear.
I don't mind being the Rico. Like, that was actually a decent acting job for the Stallone movie. And with us, as always, the lovely and talented, the lass with the class and the sass, the lovely Baronessa, Miss Jennifer Howland.
Thank you, Bear. That's awesome. I appreciate that introduction. And my pleasure this season is to introduce our guests. And today we have Jason Taylor, return guest.
Return guest. Thank you so much.
Back with us after season 2's Kingsman episode. One of my favorite episodes, just because we talked about the whole run of stuff, all the way to anal sex and to people's heads exploding and violence in media. It was a great time. Welcome back.
That's not why he came back. He came back because he wanted to get more shit about voice guns in the Dune movie.
Come on now.
Also, do not worry. For those of you who are familiar with Jason from season 2, we do have the D up. The D is up on another screen, so we can look at and consult the D as often as we need to.
Well, two things. One, you said Keith Urban at the very beginning when you compared Bear to, you're Keith Urban instead of Carl.
I was going to let it slide, but I knew Jason.
Whatever. Country singer, actor.
And which D do you have up?
First of all, let's get this clear. I am not even in the state.
That's true. That's true. Jenn is.
I am not involved. I'm not involved in whatever D the two of you have going on.
It's just Josh and I, and Josh has got the D up.
That's right.
All right.
Bear he's closest to the D. He's looking at the D. He has full control if he needs to scroll the D.
Oh, no.
Is that what we're doing? I'm stroking the D over here.
You don't want to do it on the pad, though, because that's disabled.
Oh, sad. How are we going to clean up?
So, this season, for those of you who have been listening to our first 3 shows, we have a little extra thing that we're doing, and that is that there are drinks associated with each episode. One person comes up with the drink. So far, it has been me. It will be me again for this episode. We will see for our next episode for Lock and Key if either of my stalwart co-hosts will want to take a crack at it. I do have an idea for it, so we'll see.
I have an idea as well.
Awesome. So for this one, I did tell Jason earlier exactly what ingredients to get and how to make this drink, which is actually called the Judge Dredd. It was also sent to Jenn, who I imagine did not read it and or did not.
I saw it, but I didn't read it, and I haven't really had time to do that.
So we start with 2 highball glasses with ice in it. This is...
Or one if you just want to mix one for yourself.
True. So this, as I pulled the cellophane off so the fruit flies don't get in it, is rum that has been infused with ginger for 15 minutes and then drained. So half of these go into each glass. Actually, we're going to do a little less. Apparently, I'm doing a lot of rum. And
you just decided to give yourself a lot of rum, and I just get a little bit of rum.
Well,
Or is it because you ran out of room in your glass mixer?
No. And we have actually Mexican Coke for this. If you want to crack that.
Is it just because you know that I always keep a bottle opener on me?
Yes. Or some rum back. But, well, not yet, because there is a third ingredient to this.
Okay.
Because this apparently is meant to symbolize Judge Dredd's gun. This comes from a website called superherodrinks.com, and it begins by saying, "This drink will not make you friends, but that's okay, because Dredd really doesn't have any."
Okay.
So we're then going to add some red wine.
Oh, no.
And then top off with Coke.
I don't know how I feel about this.
There we go. Jen, you are muted.
There is a drink that you make mixing red wine and Coke.
Yes.
And cheap red wine specifically, and
Right.
It's very good.
Yes. Well, for this, I used Kings of Prohibition. I actually had an hour today to run down to Trader Joe's and get myself an $8 bottle of Kings of Prohibition. So
That's not bad wine.
no, it is not. That is surprisingly not bad.
It's doing funny things in my mouth.
Like the D.
Are you sure that's not the D? Yeah.
Jay, what do you think?
Well, when you told me about this, I was like, why did Allison get the $5 can of beer? And I've got to go out and buy all the ingredients because I'm not a big fan of red wine because it gives me headaches. I'm not a big fan of dark rum. I don't drink Coke anymore. And
how are you on ginger?
So you were just like, and there's ginger.
And I don't have any raw ginger in the house. So
that's okay. Neither did Trader Joe's. I had to buy the little, basically ice cube tray of frozen ginger.
However, I can definitely taste the red wine, and I'm still. Well, let's see what happens tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning when I wake up. If I have the little vein up here in the temple throbbing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But no, I'll finish it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
I don't know if I'd call it good, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it needs a little more Coke, but well, thank you.
And you'll notice, Bear, that I did buy the Mexican Coke because all I had in the house was Coke Zero.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. That would have made this drink taste awful.
Yeah.
Look what I have.
A margarita?
Yeah.
Nice.
Do your table service.
So, we are here to discuss Judge Dredd. Jason, you've already given us your background back in the Kingsman episode. Jen, that margarita looks a little burned. It looks really burned.
Oh, yeah.
Your sister loves you.
So good.
So, Jay, out of the season 3 rundown, what brought you to Dredd?
Oh, love the movie. I love Dredd. I think Judge Dredd is a abomination, and
You're talking the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd
the
movie.
Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd.
Okay. Had you read
And,
the comics before?
Honestly, I have not. Before I got the screener episode, the screener comic.
I think that makes all of us
Yep.
who had not read the Judge Dredd comic books before.
My tattooist, he is actually a huge comic Judge Dredd fan, and he's the one that turned me on to checking out. We were just talking about comics and stuff, and he said check out the Dredd movie, and he's got me. And we talk about that all the time. But yeah, I like Dredd.
Yeah, the Dredd movie, Jen and I first saw over at our friend Bill and Courtney's, or our friends Bill and Courtney, for a pizza night that we were doing, and just kind of blew us away because all I knew about the entirety of the franchise was the Sylvester Stallone movie, and I'd never really been interested in the comic books, although I knew they were comic books, and I didn't realize how insane the entire franchise is, from everything from its history to the way it labels how you're gonna read things, which we'll get into. I'm going to have some difficulty explaining to people exactly how they can read the comic that we read, because it took me, this is the second Judge Dredd comic that we went with, and this was Origins. It is called Origins. It was released 2006 to 2007. Now, Judge Dredd doesn't have issues. It has what it calls progs, and the reason for that is it primarily is released in a magazine. So if you're looking like the old, going back to like Poe and like the old writers, how they used to release like bits of their story in publications. That's kind of how the Judge Dredd magazine comic thing works. So if you're looking for specifically Origins, it is Prague 1505 to 1519. Then there's a little break for some other story, and then 1529 to 1535. Also, very difficult to find printed Judge Dredd stories in their entirety. The one that I had ordered and gotten was America, which I've heard is one of the best Judge Dredd stories. The problem was, once I ordered it and I started to look a little bit more into it, I found out that Judge Dredd is hardly in it at all. It's a Judge Dredd world story. It's not really a Judge Dredd story. So that said, I just want to make sure that our audience is aware. This is a Judge Dredd story. It may be hard to find. You'll find it under Judge Dredd Origins, however you get things. I know that you can find, if you aren't adverse to digital, you can find Comixology deals on it. And there is a very supported community of the online Judge Dredd stuff. So you can get stuff all the way back to the 70s paid if you want to go and find the site and give the author credit. So that said, so everybody here, this is the first time with the Judge Dredd comic. So let's start with our guest. Jason, what did you think?
It's kind of timely. I was very surprised how timely it is.
I had those exact same feelings when I was reading through it. I was just like, oh, and the president wants to take over the whole planet.
Yeah.
So this is a good time to point out that I did write 3/4 of a page of notes. I don't normally write notes. I usually just write questions, and I kind of know what's going on. But Bear, I just would like you to read the top of when I got halfway through the first prog, like right to what was going on, and just decided I need to write things down.
And this is where you is this where you texted me when I was at work today, and you showed me the one frame that I just read myself?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to read this out. This is the top line of Josh's notes.
Fuck. Yep. Because we're already living in this. We're already fucking living in this. Yeah. So I think I'm really thinking I'm going to pull back the curtain of the spoilers for this, because this was the first time that the background of the world was really pulled together into kind of an anthology. It's done in a very interesting way where Dredd is taking a bunch of, new judges, couple seasoned ones, couple medics out into the
Cursed Earth.
Ruined Earth, the
Cursed Earth.
Cursed Earth.
Yes, thank you. Into the Cursed Earth on a mission. The mission isn't important for what we're going to spoil. It actually is a really cool story, so I'll leave that part out. But while they are going through this, they have to make camp several nights. And so he tells them the story of what happened to the world and how they are in the Cursed Earth that they're in. John Wagner, who was the writer for this, is one of the co-creators of Judge Dredd. So he was brought to basically tell this story, which had been hinted at, and there were like little bits, but this was the first time it's just kind of spelled out. And it was hard to read sober. I mean,
that's why they made this drink.
That's got to be why they made this drink, because this is rum and fortified red wine with rum in Coke.
Honestly, I thought it was a bit of a slog. Like it was a lot of history. Like, so it wasn't terrible. I still enjoyed the subject material, but it was kind of slow. But I did enjoy that moment that you were talking about, where pretty much they have those. We're going to stop and break here. And then you have Dredd sitting there being like the old man on the hill that's like, let me impart some wisdom to you. Let me tell you the story, which is not really in any of the movie episode, movie stuff that's out there. You don't see anything like that ever.
No. And I think, again, this was written in 2006 to 2007. I'm going to go through the parts that are spoilerish just off the bat in the notes that I have. So if you do not want these spoilers, you can fast forward. I'm going to go a minute 30 because this might take a little bit. So starting now. So it starts with an anti-immigrant president who they talk about how as soon as he's elected, he wants a fight. So he goes and starts taking it to other countries. At one point, he says America's getting a raw deal, and so goes and invades those other countries to take over their means of production. When they start to argue with him, he launches nukes. You find out later, after the nuclear war that decimates the planet, that the election to elect this president was rigged. Then they start to look into how the election was rigged, and they found out that he does not explicitly give permission to people as a way of plausible deniability. Then the judges decide to declare martial law, so police decide that they know what's best and start ramping up the violence. They declare themselves.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about Judge Dredd, the comic book?
Right. Hold on. This is the last part, and then there are a bunch of protesters shot in front of the White House.
Oh, that hasn't happened yet. Well, no.
Well, they were gassed.
Yes.
Shot, gassed. I mean, rubber bullets. I like the guys in Portland that were smart and like went out in like pads and cups and leaf blowers so that when the cops shot the tear gas at them, they were just like, we're just going to blow that shit right back at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Judge Dredd hit a little bit close to home. And I decided about halfway through I needed to take a break, so I fired up my PS4 to play the game that I'm playing right now. You guys know what game I'm playing right now?
Fallout 76?
Fallout 76.
I'm going to drink my drink. You guys.
So season 3 of a graphically novel, is that like a dystopia season? Because
You would think.
It's starting out that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Venom wasn't.
I wasn't. Okay, never mind. We'll not go into that. I had an idea. About scheduling, and it didn't work out.
Did not work out. No, because we asked our guests wrong. Well, they answered wrong.
We asked the wrong questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You
I
give me
tell
bad
you what-
direction.
No, I
One
gave
of
you
the things
wrong
I
direction.
really liked that you guys did was you gave preferential treatment to POC and females. I like that.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's kind of a white male dominated hobby, and
Yeah.
we want to try and change that image as much as possible.
I showed that to Allison, and it was like, and she was like, "Oh, somebody had to grab it." And I'm like, "Talk to him."
Yeah.
The guy that actually said he would definitely back down
Right.
if somebody wanted to. And I know that's like one of your favorite stories. Anyway, sorry.
Well,
Edit that
no, it's good. I mean, and it's something that I've really pressed for because I think that, I may not be as well versed in a lot of the cats and dogs living together. I may not be as well versed in the comics historically, but I'm interested. And, I know from my own personal history that I'm not the only woman interested. And I know that there are people of color that are interested as well. And so, I think it's only natural to want to include those people in the show.
Well, and there are some very important shows that we just straight won't do until we have the appropriate guest. Like, we've discussed really liking Luke Cage. Like, we really liked Luke Cage, but it would be a disservice of a show if we did that episode without a person of color to discuss it with. A person of color that also, preferably that also likes and understands the comic books and the history. Not just anybody that we could find off the street. I mean, because we are a very white show. We have a woman, but she's very, very white. So
even her hair is white.
That's true.
One of the things I liked about this book also, I like the artwork a lot. I've always liked this style of that sort of. I don't really know how to describe it other than you see it more in the indie books than you do in the mainstream books.
So specifically this artist, I looked him up today because there is a certain panel that I want framed in my house just because of what's going on in the world, where a bunch of judges are storming the White House, and the only word balloon in it is "take the White House." But the author, the artist's name is Carlos Ezquerra, and I want to say he does most of, if not all of, the Judge Dredd stuff, because the modern team that does a lot of the Judge Dredd stuff is John Wagner and Carlos Ezquerra. And yeah, he's pretty damn awesome. Like, I highly recommend people check out his online store.
I was super amused by them making fun of the chin.
Yeah.
In the comic itself, they're like, oh, and everybody here in the town is, we're all kin, and everybody's got the chin.
Right. So let's get into the differences between the two movies, because I have a question that may be a hot take. I believe out of the four of us, all of us would agree that the Dredd movie was better than Judge Dredd.
Yes.
Agreed.
However,
yes.
which one did the world better? Now that we know the background and the...
Judge Dredd. It had the star power. Sly Stallone. Plus, I rewatched it last night. That's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
The
I agree.
angles of the costuming. That opening shot with the helo right in front of the judge that's standing on the wall. That's straight out of the comic book.
Yeah.
That's pretty much kind of what I was thinking I watched about half of Judge Dredd today.
No, we stopped right before the line.
Yes, we stopped right before Rob Schneider goes, I am the
Mr. I am the law.
which was improvised, by the way.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
According to the D.
The D.
But yes, having watched Dredd and really enjoying Dredd, I'm trying to remember the name of the action movie that it always reminds, like people are reminded of, that I have not seen, but it's a similar situation in which it's a multi-tiered building and it's basically an action movie to get to the top. And
Raid Redemption?
might be it. It was a big action movie like pre-John Wick.
Yeah. Set in Indonesia?
Possibly. I don't know. I
Yeah.
didn't see it, but that is what people have told me is that it's very reminiscent of that. So, this Dredd, another one.
Yeah.
Dredd was...
Yes. Sorry.
Dredd was a wonderful movie that happens to take place in the Dredd universe with just, you need to understand how the universe works. Judge Dredd did a much better job of explaining what world you're in. Other than that stupid, I hate when movies have a scroll in the, like a word scroll in the beginning.
Please, it's fine.
Yeah.
You only
Why
said that
not?
because of Dune.
Well, I don't know. I think that yes, Judge Dredd looks more like a comic book movie, but I think that Dredd conveyed the feeling of the comic. You know what I mean? So
I do. It was much grittier, and actually, Judge Dredd was supposed to be that. Sylvester Stallone ruined it for everyone.
He's a ruiner.
Yeah.
it had to
Basically,
be
what
gritty?
happened in my research, I found out Sylvester Stallone had never even heard of Judge Dredd when he took the role, and he showed up, and the director, Danny Cannon, basically was a huge fan of it and wanted to make an R-rated, gritty, dark Judge Dredd. And originally they wanted Schwarzenegger, and I believe they wanted Rutger Hauer for Rico
oh wow.
that would have been entertaining.
Oh.
as a dark, gritty Judge Dredd. Well, things didn't work out.
Actually, I think it was Christopher Walken who they wanted.
Is it Walken?
Yeah. Let me double check the D. But I think it was Walken. Yeah. Christopher Walken turned down the role of Rico.
Wow.
So, more bells, more cowbells.
I don't know.
That robot
I think they
has
did.
got to be 50 or 60 years old by now.
I still think they made a pretty good choice with Armand.
Yeah, I mean,
Next
he
on
is
Sydow.
hamming this up so much, though.
Well, we were just watching, earlier in the scene where he goes into the pawn shop and he's like, I got a package to pick up, codenamed Lazarus. And, he opens it up and all that fun stuff that's in there is the gun and everything. And then he starts talking to, giving all the mission information and stuff to the robot after he, turns it back on. And it's just like, that quite possibly could be the coolest scene in the movie.
Yeah. But anyway, my I guess where I was going was when it comes to the world building of getting people who are not familiar with the comic, which was apparently everybody. I mean, like most people were not familiar with Judge Dredd, and Judge Dredd, as I did my research, is a niche comic. It has a small fan base, but it has a rabid fan base.
One of the things I did not was, in my comics that I like, I'm not a huge Punisher fan. I think Punisher is a serial killer. And I kind of equate Dredd to the same category as Punisher. I didn't really, it's a good book. It was a good read, timely read, scary read, but it still felt like I was, kind of rooting for the bad guy. And I don't like that in my comics. I don't like that in my comics at all.
Absolutely, but that's more the case of how the world ended up, as opposed to, like, that's not really Dredd's fault. He was just a clone that got indoctrinated into the Hall of Justice, as opposed to, you know, actually being an active participant and having shaped a lot of the stuff himself. Like, the Hall of Justice was already on their way to becoming the Iron Fist ruling the world,
Right.
or at least America, before any of this ever started, you know, before he even came around.
Well, and that adds to the, like you say, the timeliness, because despite anything else that we read in this about the president and how the world got to this, we are reading about a police force that is judge, jury, and executioner. You know, we're reading about a police force that has ultimate authority.
Right.
And I think we've been dealing with Trump for 4 years. I mean, we have been dealing with the issues with police for many years, but for a lot of people, this is the first time it has really come into the public zeitgeist in such a in-your-face way. And again,
Well, actually,
we say that as for white people, but you know,
I actually had a conversation not about Judge Dredd, but about the
Damn it.
about my mother and I were talking this morning about
sit your mom down, have her watch both Judge Dredd movies, and read a comic. And bring her on.
Can I finish?
Sorry.
Thank you. We were talking about the Black Lives Matter protests and all of the civil unrest that's going on. And she said it feels very eerily like what happened in the 60s, with the difference that people aren't going to just be mollified, that there might actually come some radical change.
Right.
You know, with what's going on now, protests against the police and how we think of that could quite possibly change for the better in ways that protests in the 60s were
We can
not
hope.
able to affect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that this is timely, but it really makes you hope that what's happening really in the world today can do something to prevent that future fictional world of Dredd.
Right.
Hashtag defund the police.
Absolutely. I mean, I may move my Simpsons did it to Dredd did it for a while. You know, because you look at all the things that the Simpsons predicted, and God, I had to take a break. Like I said, I had to take a break.
I'm glad I'm not the
Halfway
only
through.
one. I was I get enough of this in a day. So
Yeah.
but I just actually pulled up that scene. I did not even think of like having that take the White House shot. For those that don't know, it is page. Oh, I just had it up and I accidentally scrolled. I'll have to find it in a minute. But
JPG.
and
Page in this anthology of
Right.
comics.
page 110. But
Okay.
it's a great picture. I'd frame that too. Take the White House. Awesome shot.
Yeah.
T-shirt material.
It goes right next to the picture that I have of Wonder Woman, like with her elbow on Trump's head. And she says,
Grab
it. I dare you. So right next to there.
Tell you one of the other things I really liked about the movie, and I'm trying to find it, but I thought there was a connection between Dredd and Fifth Element, or Judge Dredd and Fifth Element, but I'm maybe thinking of a different movie. But
No, you Judge Dredd and RoboCop. So RoboCop borrowed so much from the Judge Dredd comics, it delayed its production for years, and then RoboCop came out as not a Judge Dredd movie. So, and then it was successful, and then the producers were the same for Judge Dredd. So,
okay.
yeah, they took the success of RoboCop. Yeah, because there are certain scenes that I'm like, okay, that's RoboCop. Like,
Dead or Alive, You're Coming With Me.
Yep. Yeah. That's the other thing is watching the 95 Judge Dredd movie. Like the first time
95? Jesus.
Yeah. The first time that Rob Schneider's coming out of jail, I'm like, oh wow, there's a jail in this world? I didn't grab that from the comic at all. There's an actual like sentences aren't just death.
And it was Aspen, Colorado was
Aspen Penal Colony.
Yeah.
And
that's the one you mentioned it earlier. The world building that they've done. I want to know more. And especially like in that I'm getting a little bit of reflux from that drink.
Get a little burn.
A little burn.
About to finish.
The Dredd movie, I've freeze framed it and I've looked into the background because every one of the skyscrapers at the top has the name of the block on it, like peach trees and stuff like that. And I was like, that is awesome. I want to know more about this. Is Mega City 1. I want to know about Mega City 2. I mean, I want to know more. So
right, and I want to know more because in the comics they tell you the fate during when everything's going on. They tell you the fate of the people that ran the other mega cities. So there are 3 mega cities in the comics. And I won't spoil it because it's not the thread that we were going on for spoiling stuff this episode, but you find out the fate, and it changes how those cities might function. Mega City 1, which is the entirety of the East Coast, that's interesting to me, and that's where the judges really held their reins.
Was it the entirety of the East Coast? I thought they said at one point it was like New York to DC or something like that.
No, it's damn near the entirety of the East Coast. It's New York to might be.
It's like New York to DC.
Yeah, I think it might be New York to DC. Yeah. But
so,
I mean, a major part of
it's it's a big chunk of the Eastern Seaboard.
Whatever,
right out of the middle.
I went to Pennsylvania once and was told it was the East Coast, and now everyone yells at me. So I am not good for that geography.
Mega City 2, what is that? West Coast?
So that's a good question.
Let's see. Mega City 2, California West Coast. It is referred to as Second Meg.
Then there's Texas City. Oh, it was originally called Mega City 3. So Texas. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, because Texans would want their own city named after themselves.
Right.
Because it's Texas.
Deep in the heart of Texas. Jason, you had a question, I know. Why don't we hear it? Because I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, one of the cardinal sins was created in Judge Dredd. Sly removed his hat, his beanie, as it were.
His beanie, his mask.
His mask, his helmet. I mean,
for like 3/4 of the movie,
like most of the movie, like like in the beginning, like he's in class, he took it off. He's in trial, he took it off. Like he's in the locker room, he took it off. He can't take off the mask.
Even in the comic, the primer that we read, there's the scene where he's like in a chain gang. He's pretty much naked except for his fucking helmet.
Right. I mean, right. And the brilliance of that is in the history of the Judge Dredd comics, he only ever removes his helmet once, and they censor bar it.
That's amazing.
So they always, since the 70s, so 50 years, they have come up with excuses for why the man cannot remove his helmet or why his face can't be seen. And it's brilliant.
Which is also why the Carl Urban movie is superior, even though I enjoy the humor in the 95 Judge Dredd.
Well, and the humor is basically all Sly because...
Oh, no, it's basically all Rob Schneider.
No. I say that. It's all Sly because Sly hired Rob Schneider.
Oh, okay. He was the one that added the humor, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, yes, he walked onto this movie set not knowing what he had signed up for and not knowing what the comic was, looked at the director and said, I thought this was a comedy action. We're making a comedy action.
Okay.
And the director was like, he wanted to make a Dredd. He wanted to make dark.
Yep.
And
brooding.
It's sort of like the A-list actor versus the director. We've seen it in like Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis. The A-list actor is going to get their way.
Right.
Unless you're a Spielberg or any of those A-list directors, you're pretty much up to the power of your star.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
Or if you're a I can never pronounce his last name. Villanueva?
De Niro?
No.
Villanueva? Muad'Dib.
Oh my God.
Somebody
That's
got
a killing word.
Is it? I did not know.
You're not supposed to say it that loud into the microphone. Not without your throat piece.
Did anyone else mark down or like take note or even remember their favorite quote from the comic? I would give you comic or either movie because my favorite quote from all of them came from the comic and I actually wrote it down.
Well, you share first then.
Well, and I read it in Sylvester Stallone's voice. And it was the enemy character is like, they say the cream always rises to the top. And Dredd goes, I thought that was scum.
And see, I was the exact opposite. I read everything in my head in the comic in Carl Urban's voice.
I read most things in Carl Urban's voice until I thought that was scum, because it was such a like bad 80s action movie line.
I'm just trying to think. Best line out of all of them. Favorite line out of all
Do you require backup? No.
No. Or what are you doing? We're waiting for backup. It's here.
Honestly, I think out of all of those, the comic, both movies, still my favorite line ever is Rob Schneider sitting in the little, hiding in the little robot, and you hear the robot going, "Eat recycled food. It's good for the planet."
Oh no,
and
it's great
it's great for the planet and okay for you.
Have you heard of kale? All right. Anyone else?
Waiting on Jennifer's.
I am the law.
I am the law.
Seriously.
I am the law. I am the law.
I am the law.
I am the law.
And I'm sorry, I hear that in a Muppet voice. I am the law.
Oh my God, a Judge Dredd Muppet?
Yes.
Muppet Dredd?
Well, because all of you were like, rah, 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 when you were saying your quotes, and I'm like, I am the law.
No, it'd be Deadly, Uncle Deadly, the purple.
I know who Uncle Deadly
like
is.
vulture looking. It'd be like, I am the law.
I'd like to talk about the villains
Of the
Mama versus Rico.
I mean, we've already got Trump, but
Oh, nice.
as a villain.
Yes, Rico versus
Mama.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Like, yeah, let's stay away from the comic on that. In theory, I would go with Rico's a better villain. In execution, I can't follow that.
I mean, like, Armand does an excellent job of being a bad guy, I think, especially for a movie that was coming out of the 90s.
And it's Armand. I liked Mama because, well,
Mama.
Cersei?
That was a lot of it. Lena is
Cersei slash, what was she in 300? I can't remember her character's name.
So fucking intense. I mean, she is such a good villain. She brings it. It's just like, you get it, that she is so focused on whatever it is that she's going for.
the tattoos in the movie are her real tattoos.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. She's she smokes like a pack a day. She all the tattoos are the same. Let me get rid of the cat, damn it.
Jenn.
I loved her as a villain, and with Dredd, it fit the whole slice of life. We're going to take one single day of a system where we only have 1% of crime covered.
Yeah,
and we're not going to even show you. We're going to show you what one guy does. It just happens to be the most hardcore motherfucker we have,
right?
But
because that's what you show. But yes.
Yeah. That's why I like Dredd. I found it to be like almost like a reality show. Slice of life was not comic booky,
right? It was super gritty,
violent.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, Carl Urban. Like,
yes.
If there's somebody out there that doesn't like Carl Urban, I just want to tell you right now, you're wrong, and you should feel bad for being wrong.
I would also refer you back to our episode on The Boys.
Yes,
and The Lawgiver. You see, speaking of The Boys, you see they got renewed for season 3 already.
Yeah,
season 2 hasn't even dropped.
Season 2 even comes out, but they just had the season 2 Comic-Con. As we are recording this, I will say, because it is important to this slice of fandom, Comic-Con is going on, and absolutely everything is on YouTube this year, and I am here for it. I sat down and watched all of the New Mutants panel, and the New Mutants panel was amazing.
Yes.
What they're doing with that movie, I am so excited for, and I am here for it. And it's got to be a Demon Bear, the Demon Bear story in the comics and this movie have to be coming up.
Let's hope Disney continues with this more adult-centric superhero vibe. Of course, we haven't heard anything about it in another Deadpool.
Right. Yeah. The one thing that I will recommend that I've watched thus far out of this Comic-Con is there was a panel on an upcoming documentary series called Marvel 616. And the idea of it's a series of documentaries done on a different part of Marvel. But for example, Paul Scheer, who is he was in The League. He does How Did This Get Made? One of my favorite podcasts. He's in a bunch of different movies. He's an actor, but he also directed this whole documentary about the least well-known or least used Marvel characters. So he has like Asbestos Woman, who was a woman when asbestos was starting to become a thing that like apparently got dumped in a bunch of asbestos and got powers. Like, it's this whole ridiculous thing, but I can't remember the name of the actress, and it's going to bother me, but she was Britta in Community. She directs one on the history of Marvel, and the clips I saw on that are really awesome. But apparently it's a whole documentary series that they're doing on different aspects of Marvel.
Jillian Jacobs.
Yes, Jillian Jacobs. But she came in, they specifically, for the history of Marvel, wanted someone that knew nothing about comics. And so they got her, and she went deep into, like, she was talking about the decency trials in Congress, and Louise Jacobson, who is a huge woman contributor to Thor and the New Mutants and a bunch of different comics. So yeah, the point in the middle of this Dredd episode is that there's a lot of great things that came out of this Comic-Con that you should check out.
Including Dredd. We can also talk about the Lawgiver.
Are you talking about the gun?
Yes.
His gun.
Yeah, it's the gun.
I love the gun.
Yeah.
Hello? Did we lose you?
No.
No?
Oh, everyone was silent because, it's a gun. It's not a voice gun, Bear. That's where I was going with it.
Voice.
Is that
use your voice with the gun?
That was deep. Like that.
Deep cut.
I'm not prepared for that on a Friday night. Like just because it's a gun is not enough of a reference to get me back to Dune. Like you gotta work a little harder than that.
The gun that has voice activated changing of different. Okay, full disclosure, and you guys will be amused with this. One of the things that I did not do for the drink for this episode, if you go and you look for not Judge Dredd drinks, just Dredd drinks, they have a 6-shooter, which is 6 shots. Each shot represents the different bullets in the Lawgiver.
I'll do that race with Phil. He'll lose again. I don't know if you heard that, Phil, but I'm down to do shot race with you.
So
again.
the fire bullet?
Yeah, the
Fireball.
explosive round. Oh God.
Uno Mosh?
I like Judge Dredd, the movie. Dredd. Judge Dredd, I found it SBO abomination. Except there was, like I said, very comic book of all of the movies. And other than that, I found the actual book to be so timely. It was almost, and not almost, it was very hard to read.
Yeah, my comment that I think I sent to Jen was, I am really enjoying this. I wish I had read it before this presidency.
Yeah, exactly. Because I can see us there if that son of a bitch gets in office for the next 4 years.
Oh, Canada.
So,
all right. Well, I think we are at the point of final thoughts. Jason, would you continue reading this comic now that you have read it and you know that the rest of it is not as timely?
No, not really. Like I said, not my cup of tea. With
too much rooting for the bad guy for you?
Yeah, it is. I want to be uplifted.
Although I will say, for the thing we said about, or we posted about Punisher, and there's this scene where cops have his symbol and he's like, you have sworn a duty to the law. Your person you need to follow is Captain America. He'd be glad to have you. And he like rips his symbol off of their cop car. I would say, yeah, Judge Dredd is going to be what those police officers should be following.
Yeah.
Instead.
They should definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Jen,
Pass.
would you keep reading?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Just no and nope, or are there any?
I don't know. I found some of it interesting, but I just don't. Some of the, going outside of Mega City and like what they encounter and what the real world is like was interesting, but I didn't find it that engaging.
Yeah, I agree.
Fair.
I think it kind of depends. I think this particular run that we were doing was great for this episode and would be great for other people that were interested in the show to kind of get that backstory on, people that really desperately want that backstory on Judge Dredd and how it all came to be and how they got from, point A to point B, which is Mega City 1. But if I was going to keep reading, I would probably want to read under a different writer, somebody that, I'd want to see some actual like storylines as opposed to this one. This one was pretty heavily all like just a mess of flashbacks. And all the flashbacks culminating to what the actual story arc was that we were reading. Yeah, that's awesome. But it was also pretty much the entire history of Dredd. So, like, leading up to the beginning of Dredd anyways. So it's one of those things like I would kind of like to read more just to see if any of that changes so that I can get into like a normal comic book swing of like, we're going after some villains. Do we have some good plot arcs? Stuff like that, as opposed to just flashback.
So I'll admit that that may have been partially my fault, just because I wanted to get to know the world. But that said, my view on this is I already have another one. So I'll probably read it. The series called America that has very little to do with Dredd as a character, but world builds. I think I would also enjoy that. Now that I have the background, I think it would make me enjoy going back because this series never explained what happened with him and Rico.
No, he brought up Rico. Like Rico is brought up
to him.
You see him in the flashbacks a lot,
right?
But you don't get that moment like in the 95
happened?
Judge Dredd movie of Where's Rico, because that actually happens towards the end of the comic is like, where's Rico? Yeah, he couldn't make it.
Right. And that's a thing that's referred to. And I would go back and find that, which I understand is like the huge main storyline for a long time, is what happened with Rico, what happened with his brother. I am interested enough to go back to that.
Absolutely. I would try that again. I would definitely go in just to see, some other story arcs, read a couple things here and there, and just see if things, seem to flow a little bit better as opposed to, I didn't mind this. I thought this was a good read. I thought it was a very informative read. It was just a little sluggish. It was kind of like by the time I got done with the whole run of Judge Dredd Origins, it kind of felt like I had just watched the last 3 Batman origin movies or the last 3 Spider-Man origin movies, all one after the other, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm done with the origin. Can we move on to something else?
Yep, 100% agree. The only other kind of thing that I'm interested in is apparently there is a whole series where there is a judge from a parallel Earth called Judge Death.
I'm interested. Where being living is illegal.
Yes, is illegal. Yeah. That I'm kind of interested in. That's interesting.
I had seen, like, in the little bit of time that I had to do research, I had seen something about Judge Death, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'll try it.
Right. Yeah. Jason, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Thank you guys for having me on. It's been great, as always. Bear, Muad'Dib, sir. Muad'Dib. And I would like to also congratulate
plans, Mr. Taylor. Plans within plans.
I would like to congratulate all 3 of you on 1,000 downloads on Podbean.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You have actually, me and Allison have talked about doing our own podcast as well.
Hey, when are we going to get around to doing our like panning for gold thing?
We want to do that as well. So
be Jolly and the Bear doing panning for gold.
Jolly and the Bear on .com.
Right?
That might be a little might get the wrong audience for that.
Oh no, I'll get a great tasteful picture from the front of that.
So
just as long as there's always an ad in the lower right hand corner for the D.
Thank you guys. I can't wait to I can't wait to see you guys again.
I know.
Right?
This fucking
it's
COVID shit. But
I had a 3-day weekend this weekend, but with the with the recording setup and everything else, I can go wherever I want to go. But if it wasn't for COVID, I may have jumped over to Omaha for a weekend and, you know.
Except for I have cats, and that would kill you.
Right, but my brother does not.
That's right. Your brother's here.
Yeah.
Hi, Phil.
We mentioned him earlier in the episode.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
That guy. So thank you once, like I said, thank you once again for having me on. I cannot wait until season 4's lists come out so I can heartedly just text you guys and say, hey, I want on that episode.
I want in on one of these 4 things.
Yeah. Thank you. And you can follow me at Old Punk Rocker. That's OldPunkRockr. No E, just R.
Jason, thank you so much for being with us. This was fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tune in next time for an episode we're all very excited about because we love the show and the comic. Lock and Key will be next.
Yes.
And
yes.
This is when I can announce we will have a great guest in J.R. Killian Green, who is a longtime friend of Jenn and I. But we will also have another Eastern Iowa podcast crew in Dairy Public Radio. So Lock and Key is written by Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King. Dairy Public Radio is a Stephen King book club podcast. Recently, and I will get Bear to listen to it because we are the only 2 people on Earth other than these people that love it. They did a 10-part episode on Kingdom Hospital, culminating in an interview with Andrew McCarthy, the guy that played Hook.
Nice.
Yeah. They are fantastic. I am a big fan of theirs, and I am so glad they're coming on the show. So we keep that Eastern Iowa, respect strong with Vandello, and now adding in Dairy Public Radio. So until next time, this has been a wonderful episode of Graphically Novel. Thank you all for joining us, and take it away, Vandello.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, oh can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems. Do 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 do. Hero or villain, loved or hated by millions. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but you don't want to see